Hi, like she said, I'm Karen, and I have been at the preschool. This is going on my 16th year. And I have worked in the infant toddler program mainly, but I've also worked upstairs in the preschool as well. So I've got a lot of time in at the preschool.
And I am Kristen, and I have worked mainly in the preschool rooms. I am on my 10th year now and have worked with 3, 4s, and 5, so a little bit of the older age children that we serve.
So today we're going to start with our creative math ideas, and we're going to start from infancy and just kind of like what math looks like to an infant. Yes, we have an icebreaker first. We're going to pass out these baggies, and you can just stay in your tables. And if you would arrange them flat side down so they just stand up, and it's going to be a memory game, and you'll figure out from your bag what types of memory it's going to be. And then you can eat the chocolate when you're done. Is that it? Did everybody get one?
Yeah, I think that he's coming up and joining that table.
Okay.
They should be all set. So you'll have to work together and
turn your mic on, otherwise he won't hear you.
Yes.
Okay.
You can.
You're okay.
Should I just leave it on?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, that's a really important thing.
That scared me. Let's not just leave it on. Did you figure out what you're doing here?
No.
You're making a memory game, so you can go first and pick one up. It's 1 dot, and pick up another one, 2 dots. So go ahead and go, and you're going to match them. Is it a match? You got it.
Okay, you said 2.
Yeah.
Yep, 5. It's a great way to start.
Yeah, I know. So if you get your match, you can eat them if you want.
See, I'm gonna shoot.
No, I don't think so. We'll give you about 2 more minutes to find your matches, and then we'll go on.
I know you don't want to. You turn on one more time.
I know you don't want to. Everybody be prepared.
Yes, there may be a loud noise.
1, 2, 3, green. Okay, you talk a little bit?
Yes, can you hear me now?
I know. Did you hear anything? Not that loud.
Okay.
Good? All right.
Ready? Is that 2 minutes? Okay. With the different Hershey's Kisses, it was a really easy game to come up with. The ones in the front here, they just had a dot system. So there was 1 dot matched 1 dot, 2 dots matched 2. You could also do it with colors, and not necessarily Hershey Kisses for toddlers or babies, but matching the colors. You could make it multiplication. I did it pretty simple just because I didn't want you to think too hard. So I did subtraction and I did addition, and then I also did the dot system. But this is something you could do in your classroom with kids that is also sort of a reward system for, of course, all kids like to eat candy once they're done. So we just thought that would be a great icebreaker for you guys to be able to try out something new. So what is math? Here's the actual definition of math. the systematic treatment of magnitude relationships between figures and forms and relations between quantities expressed symbolically. That's a lot. What does that mean to each different age group? So in each different age group, it looks different. In infant development, this is our checkpoints that we follow in the preschool. We do the Creative Curriculum Online Gold is how we do our observations and how we assess our children. And then we plan activities according to what our observations for the kids were. These are the math checkpoints. So for infants, and they uses number concepts and operations, counts, quantifies. Actually, the infant and the toddler are the same. They just look different in each category. The infants obviously are going not to be counting actual 1, 2, 3, 4, unless they're a little older infants. The toddlers are going to start counting. So for objective 20, these are some of the infant math activities that we do at practice in our classroom for the number concepts and reading. Or number concepts, reading to the kids and talking is basically the way they're teaching math to the children in the infant room. The Very Hungry Caterpillar is a great book, and the 1, 2, 3 to the Zoo. We do lots of counting body parts. You know, I have 2 eyes, you have 2 eyes. 1, 2, and we count them actually. We do signing with our children, and one of the very first math concepts that children learn is all done or more. So learning that they want more food or they want you to read the book again, they're going to do more. Same thing with all done. They don't want it anymore, all done. Another early concept is knowing their caregiver or their parents. So have you ever seen a child with stranger anxiety? And you are not somebody that's familiar to me. So that is actually a first sign of sorting. They know you, they don't know you. So they're going to show you in that way that they don't know you. This is a video of the little girl on the left. She's going to be signing more because she really enjoys this activity. So once it's done, she wants her to do more. So she doesn't have a lot of language, but she does know the sign for more, and she can say more. But go ahead, Christy. With infants, language is the most important piece to teach those types of math activities. Just keep the language and the talking. The objective 21, spatial relationships and shapes. Sorting and classifying. Over here we do have a few activities that we brought that you guys at the end will be able to explore and look at. Identifying different animals, that's classifying just farm animals or a cow or a pig. Shape sorters, identifying different spatial relations on where things fit. This here is actually a shape sorter for infants. They're all the same shape, but knowing that this fits into this hole is a spatial relation. Balls in a basket, throwing the ball in the basket. We have a basketball hoop at the preschool that only fits a small ball in it. several times kids try to get big balls in it, and then they figure out that the big ball doesn't fit because the spatial relationship's not the same. That's a math concept. Having children explore in boxes and baskets, same thing. Objective 22 is compares and measures. For a small baby that is learning to reach for things, if you put something just out of their reach, you watch that child reach really, really far. That's measuring. That's how far they have to reach to get that object. Also sand and water play, doing a lot of pouring, dumping, scooping, filling things up, dumping them out. That is also comparing and measuring, even though they're not actually measuring 4 cups of flour. They're measuring how much they're filling stuff up. These are some pictures of infants doing their math activities, puzzles, spatial relationships. That bottom middle picture is dancing scarves that we use, and then the middle part is just an empty wipe container, a baby wipe container. They love to stuff them in and pull them out. The tunnel that the little girl in the bottom right is in is a spatial relationship that she can fit through there and crawl through. Sitting in boxes and playing, and then the middle is some different types of shape sorters that we have. The knowledge of patterns. Daily schedules for kids is a pattern for infants. Verbalizing the daily schedule. If any of you have been in our preschool, you know that we do a lot of telling them what's coming next. And so after they are in our program for a while, they know, I'm going to change your diaper, or I'm going to check your diaper, and they go to the changing table. They know the sequence of events, and they know the daily schedule after that, and that's a pattern to them. The next is our toddler development. In our toddler room, they're about 16 months to about 2.5. The infant room, I'm sorry, is about, they can start at 2 weeks. They're not generally that young. They're about 6 to 8 weeks, and then they stay in there until they're about 16 or 18 months. So this is more for the 18 months to 2.5-year-olds. Small manipulatives. This is the number concepts. The Very Hungry Caterpillar match game. We had some paper plates that had a 1 on it, and there was a string, and it had 1 apple. We weren't asking them to count and find the 1 apple. It already had that on there, and they just had to take the Velcro piece and put it there. But that visualizes and shows them 1-to-1 ratio there. Giving directions with number. We have a little girl who likes to pump lots and lots of soap when she washes her hands. So we talked to her about taking 2 pumps of soap. And the other day I heard her go 1, 2. Karen, I took 2 pumps of soap. So there were just 2 pumps of soap. We also give them 5 more minutes until lunchtime. So this is giving directions with numbers, asking them to give you 3 blocks, or can you put 3 blocks in the container? This next YouTube video is, I had some Easter eggs, and we had cotton balls, and we counted the cotton balls as we put them in the Easter eggs, or putting the 2 Easter eggs together, and you can see how I'm talking to the little boy over here, but then she says 2, that she found 2 cotton balls. 2, 3. You found 3? 2. Open. Uh-oh. Oh, threw it. 1, 2. 3. Good job. Put them in the egg. You put 1 in the egg. You put 1 in the egg, Elizabeth. Paula in the background singing. So I talked about numbers. I also talked about you have a lot, you don't have any. And those were all helping the children realize math concepts in just that one activity.
Online, people who already don't like the president are criticizing him for coming here.
Oh,
The president
mean
was-
tweets. This is not part of our presentation. We also do a lot of floor puzzles and the knob puzzles that are just like the one or two shapes for the toddlers, which is the spatial relationships. We do stuff with parachutes and do directional movements with the arms up, arms down. We've gone under it. We've got on top of it. We've put balls on it that come off it. Our gross motor activities, you saw the little girl climbing through the tunnel. We do jumping over, under spatial relationships on where they are located in the activity. This sock and mitten matching, we have a big basket where we just put a bunch of different socks or different mittens, and they're not paired together. And having them find the match is the shapes for the Objective 21. And then shape sorters as well. And we have shape sorters that kind of gear up towards the toddlers more than just the one with just the straight pieces in it. Compares and measures, the same thing with the waters and the sand, jumping over an object, measuring distance, taking big steps, taking small steps. This morning we were doing yoga. And we were bending at the knees and then taking a big step, and bending at the knees and taking a small step. Fast and slow, a lot of times in our toddler room we talk to the kids about moving their bodies really fast because they like to go really fast, and ask them to slow down, or we ask them to move their bodies fast or slow with a lot of songs, different types of music. And then the sorting manipulatives. On this front table there's some red bears. We have a card that has the large bears on it, and they find the large bears. They're also matching colors with this one. Sometimes if they're not ready to match colors, we just ask them to find the big ones or find the small ones. We also have a big container that has, it was from Christmas, and it was for bulbs, Christmas bulbs. And we filled it with rocks, and they took tongs and separated them into different spaces in that container. The same from the infants with farm animals and recognizing the different animals in the farm. The knowledge of patterns, the same thing with the daily schedule, although in the toddler room we do a little more with music and songs meaning something. So we have one song that we play each time we are going to clean up. And once they hear that song, we have 12 toddlers, maybe 3 of them start cleaning up. But we demonstrate it through us cleaning up as well. But they do hear the cleanup song and we start cleaning up, so they're recognizing a schedule. Heading to the sink to wash their hands. If they know it's going to be snack time, they always wash their hands before they eat, so they will automatically go to the sink. Same with doing descriptive words, and can you pick up the big block first? And then we have started doing some patterns with the red, black, can you find the AB pattern with colored objects? Here's some pictures. In the top left, the little boy has a lock, a padlock, and a key. And to gear up for older children, you could put a math equation on your lock and the answer on your key. And they have to match what the answer to the key is. But he's just working on opening and figuring out that spatial relationship on where that key fits. There's puzzles in the middle of the sand. He's also playing in that large box. The bottom left is a ball toss. He played with it as peekaboo, but the older kids used it as a ball toss, and that was learning which ball fit through there and then following directions of colors after that. There's some more. We have the Oreo cookie match up on the left. That's also over here. It's different space or different shapes that fit together. The top right is a magnetic board, and this one happens to have food on it, but it's matching the small pieces to the big pieces. There's magnets on the back so that they stick. There's the rocks I was talking about. And then we have lots and lots of different types of building blocks to explore with, to stack and to connect and to knock down to do the spatial awareness.
So at this point, we're going to kind of flip-flop, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about preschool activities. And I wanted to let you know that the handout that we gave you, the upper portion with the goals includes the creative curriculum that Karen said that she uses. And for the preschool, these are actually through the state of Michigan. They're the early learning expectations that are specific to preschool, but if you are studying on for elementary ed, there are also learning expectations for that age group as well. So with the preschool, I think early ed, something you want to keep in mind is as far as keeping math creative and keeping them involved, a lot of hands-on activities are great. So different ways to explore those math concepts where you're still meeting your expectations, but also allowing them to remain engaged and pulling them in by letting them use their hands and explore things creatively. So the first standard for the ELE is the math practices. Children begin to develop processes and strategies for solving mathematical problems. So in our room, we also have a lot of puzzles out, and allowing them to explore some of them are just the single one-to-one like the infant and toddler room had, but these ones are a little more in depth, and they're the ones where they're actually placing the pieces together, trying to figure out like, oh, this piece with 2 holes might go here, allowing them the opportunity to think through that process and explore that spatial relationship. Magnetiles are another great manipulative that we always have available in the classroom. They're magnetic blocks that are colored, and they also have shapes. And a lot of what you'll hear is just the language that they're engaging in with their peers while they explore and build with those, just using the different shapes and making geometric shapes because they create 3D objects with them. That is a great way. It might not be something like in elementary ed, you wouldn't say like, we're doing magnetiles today, but there are ways that you could gear it that they might have to create a rectangle out of the squares or whatnot that would allow them to do so. Jobs is another great way for them to think about processes. You might have a table setter in your classroom, so having that child take the opportunity to think about there's 16 kids in the class, and I have to figure out how each child is going to get 1 plate, 1 cup, and 1 fork. So counting with that 1-to-1 correspondence and figuring out how those plates are going to go from the stack to 1 spot for each child is a great early math concept. And in our room, in the bear room, we do a lot of taking polls and graphing. So at their age, it's very teacher-directed, but if you got into elementary ed oriented, then you could really let the children start leading this activity. And in the fall, for example, we took a graph for favorite leaf color, which was part of our tree project. So they each took a turn voting, and then we made a graph in the classroom using these child picture cards, and they each had their name, so they were able to place where their favorite leaf color was, and then we kind of gathered the data from that and created a chart and had it on display, and then at the end of the day, they talked to their parents about the result. So you could make it more elaborate or less depending on your age group, but either way, it was a great way to see something, numbers placed concrete on paper and allow them to explore that concept. So here is the picture on the left where we were gathering the votes for the favorite leaf color, and then the one on the right is the magnetile. So you can see the various shapes, and she obviously spent a lot of time figuring out how those triangles were going to fit on the outside and creating the 3D structure with the squares and rectangles. All right, number 2. Children begin to use the use of language of mathematics by applying emerging skills in representing, discussing, reading, writing, and listening. So this is something, a lot of math activities in our preschool too are kind of embedded into all areas of the classroom. And you'll notice that a lot in dramatic play. We don't intentionally have that set out as a math activity, but it happens intrinsically. Some examples that I included were cash registers and money. A few weeks ago, we had the ice cream shop materials out in our classroom, and while they were engaging in play, they were talking about conversations. Your ice cream's going to be $5. So they didn't necessarily, in our room, count out 5 $1 bills, like they might have slipped a 10 or 100 in there, but they were still beginning that one-to-one by counting those $5 bills out. Or, asking them, I want 2 popsicles and 1 soft serve ice cream. So getting that hands-on practice of counting those objects out and then engaging in play while they were doing so with that. Another example is an activity that we brought with us, and this is great for the preschool classrooms or your early elementary classrooms, and you'll have a chance to make some of these yourself and take them with you if you want, but it's just simple pipe cleaners, and there are label stickers on here, and you can put any number that you want on here, and there's beads that you can attach to them. So you would put like 10 beads on if you had the number 10 on there, obviously, and so they can practice counting with a one-to-one, like what 10 beads would look like. If you wanted to, for your older groups, you could even incorporate color into this by having the numbers be color coordinated, so they could only put black beads with the black number or in the black pipe cleaner, and advance it on in that way if you'd like. So that will be able, if you are interested later on, you can take a chance to make that and have a little trick up your sleeve for when you get in that classroom someday. And board games. Those are great for just so many different concepts. A lot of social skills involved in that, but a lot of also one-to-one corresponding, starting as simple as chutes and ladders, just rolling the die, recognizing the number in print, and then moving their pawn through the game board. And it also develops further into taking turns. We have a gems and a treasure chest game where they're reading the number on the die and then taking the corresponding number of gems, and you could even advance that by incorporating color into that if you want to, or in your older levels, like doing math problems, like 3 + 1, and then they would need to take the 4 gems. All right, number 3, classification and patterns. Children begin to develop skills of recognizing, comparing, and classifying objects, relationships, events, and patterns in their environment and everyday life. So the first example here, you might get called crazy if other teachers seeing you doing this, but occasionally when we're taking walks to the playground or going through the hallway to do something, a great way to draw their attention in if they're having a hard time listening, and also get a little math practice in, is making a pattern. So you might see us walking through the hallway, and we'll start in the classroom, say, I'm going to tap my head once, I'm going to rub my belly 2 times, and then I'm going to give 3 claps. So while they're walking, they're trying to compete that pattern of doing that over and over and getting that sequence through and counting as well. So if you're in an elementary setting, you might get a few stares from the other teachers, but it is a great way to build that skill and a little time saver because you might be walking to specials or whatnot. Repetitive rhythms with instruments. We usually always have instruments available in our classroom, and it can be open-ended during free play, or it can be during more structured times like circle times, but even having them use the mallets to follow the same pattern that you're making, so a slow or fast pattern, following that out with the mallets would be an example of figuring that pattern out. And sorting manipulatives. These are available all over the place. There's so many manipulatives that you can use. Some can be as simple as the man-made products as the sorting bears, but up here we have more of materials. If you were just starting out in your classroom, we have these little tiles from like a Home Depot or Menards, and just having those available in large quantities and having a space where they're able to sort them out. We had little bowls out here. They can sort them by color. You could even vary them by shape and color, or you could do like type of fruit, vegetable, and by color. So a lot of ways to vary that and gear it toward like whatever level of child you're working with. And here is just a couple examples of the math. On the left, they are on an interactive table, and they are sorting objects, living versus non-living. So they are using their hands and just guiding them into whichever corresponding box they belong in. And in the second picture, they have tongs out, and they're sorting through beans. So after they got their bowl of beans, they place them on the corresponding picture card on the paper. All right, number 4, counting. Children extend their understanding of numbers and their relationship to one another and the things in their environment. A lot of hands-on stuff up here for this one that you guys can check out later. One example was dominoes with a car sheet. So we have a little spreadsheet up here somewhere. It's a little parking lot, and the numbers are printed out on the parking lot. And so with this one, they're taking dominoes and finding that corresponding number and placing it in that numerical spot. So recognizing that, counting out the dots, and then finding the corresponding number. Birthday calendar is a great way. We don't necessarily do the ritual counting 1 to 30 every day or including it in our circle time, but at this age they really are interested in number, and they talk a lot about when their birthday is. So we have a birthday chart up in our classroom, and a lot of times they'll get really excited when is my birthday coming up? And it's in 10 more days. So doing a countdown to incorporate that into the classroom and allowing them to share that experience is another great way to include numeracy. Dump trucks with rocks, that's a great activity for boys, to allowing them to carry around large rocks and having just either little paper cutouts in your classroom that have different numbers on them, or you could even have big, small, medium, and then having them do the sorting according to their size. That's a great way to get some physical activity in there. The gems in the treasure chest I already talked to you about, and the sequence of events, I have some cards up here that you can explore, but one set of them is growing a plant. So having those cards out and figuring out that sequence of events. We're starting with seeds, and we're going to water and plant them and give them sunlight and let them grow. And then the end card, there's a picture of a sunflower. So figuring out how that series works and placing that event together is understanding that relationship and that numerical pattern. And another way that we incorporate into our daily schedules with a snack chart, and that's just as simple as a dry erase board. And when they are out and having snack, we have pictures on the snack chart that might say, take 4 pretzels and a half a glass of water. So allowing them the chance to serve themselves, and they have to figure out how they're going to get those 4 crackers onto their plate and count them out 1 to 1. And there's the example of the domino parking lot. So you can see the numbers printed on there, and then they would have to count out the circles on the dominoes to find the correct spot for that domino. All right, number 5. Simple operations and beginning algebraic thinking. Children begin to develop skills of sorting and organizing information, seeing patterns, and using information to make predictions and solve new problems. All right, our first example is an estimation jar. I know in the dining room and our classroom, they have that out on their math shelf throughout the year, and they change out the materials in there about once or twice a week. And they have just different manipulatives, and they'll have a chart out, and each child can sign in their name and make a prediction about how many objects they think are in that jar. So at the beginning of the year, that might be kind of a new concept for them, and they might just, I'm 4 years old, so I'm going to pick the number 4, and they'll write that down. But by the end of the year, they're really taking a look at that space that's in that jar and thinking about how many do I think are in there, and you'll see them make more logical responses to that estimation. Pattern cards, using small manipulatives, we have insects, vehicles. We could use the tiles in this one. The manipulatives are on end for that, and there's pre-printed, or you could even make your own. You could do as simple as A-B patterns. Some of the kids in our room are able to extend above that and do 3 or 4 sequence patterns. You could do as simple as just finding the right size if they're at that beginning, but having those patterns available and them to able to do a 1-to-1 matchup with that is a great exploration. And added up is we have a picture of that, so I'll explain that to you in the next slide. Color sort tubes. We have those right here. This is another one of our make it and take it's. And it's great because it's low cost and a great way for them to explore hands-on. So we just have different colors of paper towel tubes and then corresponding pom-poms. For your beginning level, you probably would only want to do one size of pom-pom, but for the older levels, there are different sizes in there as well. And all they're doing is taking those pom-poms and finding the corresponding tube and inserting them in there. If you had a little bit bigger class, you might have 2 tubes of blue, and then you might have big and small. So they would not only sort by color, but they're also going to start sorting by the size of the tube also. So a little bit higher level thinking involved there. But those are going to be available up on the table if you would like to grab that craft too, and also have another trick for you. And the last example that we had was the book The Doorbell Rang, which is a story about cookies, and more children keep coming to this story, and the children have to share cookies. So they start with 12 and there's just 2, but more children come in, like the mother says that they have to share, so you're doing some dividing and subtracting to figure out how many cookies each child is going to get. And there's a great, there's some internet printouts you could grab with that one to incorporate that in your room as well. So there's the example of they used like bingo chips, and they had a small group activity available with counting out the cookies like after they were done reading that. On the left we have the estimation jar. There was turtles in there at the time. And in the middle, that's the added up tubes. So they put however many of the manipulative in each side of the tube. And then at the bottom, it had on the tubes blank plus blank. And then on the bottom, the box says equals. So that's a great way for them to have some hands-on exploration of addition problems. And you could change it to do subtraction or other different ideas as you get older too. And then on the far one is the pattern cards. So in there they were sorting through people who had different clothing or different sex with the boys or girls. So there's a few different ways that you could do that. They were doing it right there with 2 different boys. But a higher level thinking, you could have them do boy and girl. But if there's more than 2 types of each, they might have 2 different boys and 2 different girls in there. So staggering them in a pattern would be a little bit of a higher level for them. And number 6, measuring. Children explore and discover simple ways to measure. Some examples that we have are a scale that we have. We usually have these available in every classroom. They're the balancing scales. So allowing them to, you can do it structured or unstructured, to open-endedly explore, like if I have 5 big rocks on this side, how many little rocks would it take to weigh the same amount? So allowing them the chance to really think about that process. And even though they're not the same size, they're getting the chance to explore by mass versus just quantity. Measuring with objects. We do incorporate rulers into our classroom, and we'll have them start understanding that there's measurement methods in there using increments of inches. But we also do a lot with objects. So we might, during a small group, have 4 objects out in the classroom, and they're going to measure with crayons how long each object is. So actually having the crayons available and having them line up to measure that is a great way for them to do some hands-on measuring. They also use their feet, but then sometimes you run into problems with that because every child has a different size foot, so it doesn't always match up. And we do a lot with measuring cups also. In our room, we do talk a little bit about how much does 1 cup look like. And if we're going to make Play-Doh, we're going to need 3 cups of flour. So if we were using a half a cup, how would you get 3 cups of flour? Well, then you're going to have to multiply that by 2 to get the full amount. And this is an example of measuring with paper clips. This was just an internet print-off, so a lot of those type of activities available for you out there, and you can utilize them as you need. And then this next activity is, what were they? They were talking about dinosaurs?
Yeah, could you come to it?
Yeah, you want me to do it? Yeah. Okay, so they were talking about dinosaurs in this activity and figuring out how tall the dinosaur was. So they're going to take and use their body as an increment of measurement and do some hands-on exploring of that concept.
Armstrong's head next to this one's head. What do you think? Whose is bigger? The dinosaur's one. Yeah, what does he have that's really long? Teeth. Let's see this. How many of us could fit into that T-Rex? 59. You think 59 of us? What do you guys think? How many kids? All of us? You think all the kids? What do you guys think? I think it's 51. What's your good idea, Anton? We could measure it. That's a terrific idea. Do you guys want to try to do that? We can measure it with the rope. Great thinking. Head right where your head was on my hand. Okay, who can come next? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Wow, is that big or small? Big. Awesome job, guys. Thank you. Okay, come on.
All right, so this expectation continued. Children begin their visual thinking skills through explorations with shape and the spaces in their classrooms and neighborhoods.
Hi kids, I'm Vivek and welcome to my show Math.
I had a
Where you
feeling
can
that was
learn
going to happen.
math in a very easy way and it's fun too. In the last video, we have seen the easiest way of learning tables up to 9. On all the school programs I do,
We're not interested today. Oh. Oh, was that the last one? There we go. All right. All right, so we were going to talk about a shape hunt. So in this one, it's kind of an out-of-the-box understanding of shapes for them. So we're not looking for the beginning level, you might ask them to look for something that is a circle and have them approach your math shelf, which has shape blocks available in it. But it could be more of an abstract idea where they're finding a rectangle in the classroom and they find your table that you sit at, a rectangular table. So taking a look around at their environment, or seeing that a circle is created by the light in the ceiling. So that's a great way for them to explore shape in sort of a abstract way. And another way we explore space in our classroom is a simple move the ball game. So any type of ball, usually one that they can hold on to easily without dropping it, or I think a larger ball makes them feel less prone to want to throw it in the classroom would be a great ball to use. And just having different direction cards pass the ball over your shoulders. So they're taking that physical object and completing that action with the ball. So kind of, it also helps them like with their memory, doing that physical activity and then passing it over their shoulder at once. That's a great way to think of spatial relation for them. And I think that's it. So go ahead.
Basically, talking about math in any setting, it looks different for any child at any age. But the importance with the infants and toddlers is the language piece, and talking to them and reading to them and explaining the different sizes of shapes and stuff. And as you get to the older kids, there's definitely the 1 + 1 is 2 and what you think of as math. But hopefully you got a few ideas if you're working with younger kids that math just doesn't have to be 1 + 1, 2 + 2, those type of things. So go ahead, and if you want to, there's some activities. Some are homemade, some are bought. We use these in our classrooms. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask, but they're over on the table. There's some over here. And then this is the make it, take it stuff. If you want to have something to take with you, we have plenty for everybody to do it and take it along with them. And if you have any questions, go ahead and feel free to ask.
Thanks for coming.